All right, everyone.
Hello, hello. All right. We're probably gonna give it a couple of minutes just to make sure everyone could get in here and we don't want to kind of start anywhere yet without them. Um, Hopefully, everyone last week got some good ammo to go out there and maybe start doing some things. Um, we got a couple of cameras on. Dean, if you want to unmute yourself, maybe I'll ask you a couple of questions if that's all right.
Sure.
Awesome, awesome, Dean. All right. So, how was last week for you? Did you get some information that kind of made sense or helped you in any way?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I've been going through Zillow and all that and
Awesome.
trying to figure out the confidence in making an offer. That's the thing, is just
Cool.
having the confidence to do that.
Nice, nice. Definitely a good point, right? Because at the end of the day, when we're first starting our outreach and setting that first offer, I'm coming from personally, I'm coming from an area that I know they're going to say no, right? And that's for me, it's totally fine. They can say no, and so that is just to get the conversation going, right? And maybe they'll say yes. I've had someone say yes before, but um, you know, 99% of the time when you throw that first offer out there, it's going to be a no. So to me, knowing that it's going to be a no already, I have no problem sending it because I'm already waiting for that no, and I'm already preparing myself for that negotiation, right? And so that's a very good point because it could be a little scary when you send that first thing out and you kind of anticipating for them to say something, right? The nice thing is, in what I'm about to kind of show you and everyone else here, is you send that first offer, and then this is a typical response, right? So we'll kind of go over one of those. Hopefully, that'll give you a little more insight, and the confidence comes from just shooting them out there. Just let it go, just spray and pray is sometimes what we like to say. Um, but obviously that's definitely some good feedback, and we'll definitely go over one of those for you, and then let's see, we'll time it. It's 2:04. We've got a good group of people again. Everyone, if you want to turn on your cameras, that's always a nice thing that I like to see everyone's faces. So um, and then I am going to. Okay, so I think we have a good amount of people here now. 5, so we could probably go ahead and get started. And I am going to share my screen.
Hey guys, just FYI, the stuff that James has been doing the last um 2 weeks or so, he's already working on his, another deal just with a VA, just with Lily. She's on the Zoom. So that's one of the things that he's gonna break down. So I highly recommend everybody stay till the end because a VA got, a very close to a deal, just within like literally 6 days of working. So keep watching.
Nice. Thank you, Kevin. Now, can you see my screen? Back to being technologically disadvantaged.
Very. Yeah, you can should be.
Okay, so I'm gonna go into slideshow mode. Awesome. I think we are live. All right, so this is pretty much a continuation from week one, right? We're gonna go step by step with everyone. The main section of these first few weeks is to really get going on just throwing some offers out there and getting some properties that we know will work for hedge funds, right? Because we've already kind of showed you how to find some hedge funds. Of course, kind of later down the line, we'll get into that even more and more. But for now, we are just making sure that we are bringing in some good assets and can kind of go through the negotiation process, and hopefully build up some confidence to get these going. Let's see here. So, we are still using Zillow, and so a little recap on week one, right? So we're picking a market, focusing on states that we know hedge funds buy in. Usually they are the more landlord-friendly states, right? So here, of course, I just have some of my main ones. I gave my buy box previously, and I'll kind of go over that again. But obviously, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Arizona. These are definitely investor-friendly markets for hedge funds and for any investors, mom and pop as well. They all have, big areas with lots of rental property potential, and very good markets, right? So Tennessee, Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Georgia, Atlanta's a huge city, right? Arizona, Phoenix, everything that touches Phoenix. So all the cities around it, right? Mesa, Gilbert, Scottsdale, Queen Creek, all those. And we want to make sure that we're in strong rental demand areas. So those first time home buyer subdivisions are gold. That's what we really like to explore. And just so everyone knows, I'm gonna try to make this kind of a shorter one today for everyone. Get right to the point of everything, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. But let's see if we can get through this for y'all nice and quickly. Let's see. All right, so here's the next recap, right? Again, this is the buy box that we want to stick to, 1970s and newer, 3-bed, 2-bath minimum, 1,250 square feet minimum. And these are the words, right? So this is what we're doing in Zillow. We put these filters in Zillow, and then there are the searches, right? So we can search for words like motivated, price improvement. And now this is what I did, right? So I pretty much just followed this like I would have y'all follow this. I got my VA involved. Her name is Lily. She's actually here now. She's learning the same thing you all are learning. Now, of course, I do this at a little bigger of a scale, but I wanted to get kind of back to my beginning stages, kind of what I'm teaching here. And so I got my VA involved. Sent her that buy box and criteria, right? So she got all this like everyone else did. She's learning just like you all are learning. And this is what I did. I had us build out an Excel spreadsheet to track these deals, right? So again, Google Sheets, Google Spreadsheets, all free services. Now we're bouncing between Zillow and these Google Sheets. And again, I did have my VA do it, but this is something that y'all can do very easily. And so we notated the purchase price and sent out offers at 75%. And this is my spreadsheet. So this is kind of something that you can use. I have the addresses, I have the asking prices, days on market, target price point, right? So this is what we're saying is 75% of the asking price, right? And so if we go back here, noted the purchase price and sent out offers at 75%. So asking prices, and this is the target purchase price. So every one of these target purchase prices is going to be 75% of the asking price. Now you'll see everything fits the buy box. Minimum 3 bedrooms in all these, right? 3, 4 bedrooms. Minimum full bath of 2 or more. And then our square feet, this kind of got chopped up a little bit, but this is just one easy spreadsheet. Now, at the end of this call, I'll explain to everyone kind of how I can get this to you. It's going to take a little bit of homework on your end, but we'll kind of discuss that at the end because, this is something that took, I would say, maybe 5 minutes to build. Very, very simple, right? We got the year build, the estimated market rent, right? And so we want to know, hey, is our target purchase price close to that estimated rent, right? So we want to be as close to 1% as possible. Target purchase price 172, market rent 1686. So for us, that's pretty close to 1%. So we know if we can get it at 1%, we can offload it to a hedge fund you know, at 0.8% or something along those lines. So that's kind of like just a little another marker to hold on to. And then you'll see in a lot of the listings, you know, they'll discuss the age of the HVAC, age of the roof, age of the water heater. So that's always good stuff to send to our hedge fund contacts. You know, we take note of the agent name and phone number, agent email. Obviously, we all saw how we can find those emails just by searching the agents in Zillow, and then notes, right? So you will see that I have date offer sent the 22nd. So I believe that was Friday. So we all met on Wednesday. I had built this on spreadsheet on Thursday and kind of talked to my VA about what we would be doing. So these are the offers sent on those specific days. And you'll see the 22nd, we have a bunch sent on the 22nd and then also on the 26th. And then you'll see in the next column, was there a reply? We just want to know, did someone say something? Does someone have a heartbeat? And did they get back to us? Right. And so these are all yeses. So yes, 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 yes. Right. Now, this isn't showing all the offers we sent. This is kind of just like the top part of my spreadsheet. But then you'll see that we have some notes as well in here that we're keeping track of. Right. So again, everything is done in a spreadsheet. Very, very simple. This is the most simple CRM that you can do, really. And so you'll see we offered some people and we got counters back. He said counter offer 270, other terms can remain the same, countered at 250, right? So in essence, I have not picked up the phone. I have not called anyone. I have not texted anyone. All I literally did, when I say all I did, my our VA, right? All our VA did was take my email template, put these addresses in, put these target purchase prices in, and sent it to these agents. And now these start bouncing back to me, and now I can come in and negotiate these, right? Because now I know that the seller and the agent are willing to play ball. And then you'll see also I have another section that says date to send next offer. So, you know, for the people or the agents that did not reply, you know, I will have in 2 weeks from the date that I sent these offer, I'm going to have our VA resend the offer, right? They're going to, again, check the on-market asking price. If it is still the same 2 weeks later, then we're going to send the same target purchase price. If they have reduced their asking price on market, then we're going to send a new offer with 75% of that new asking price on market. And then also, you know, obviously we're keeping track. Some people just said no. Some people said LOL, right? So this agent replied, but she said, you know, laugh out loud at your offer. Great, no problem. You know, in 2 weeks, you're going to get another one and you could laugh again. And then hopefully you'll be laughing until you say yes eventually. But, you know, we have some seller not interested, but that's all right. You know, no problem. We do like these ones though. People are countering. People are countering. And so I think I do have some numbers here. And this is pretty much my week one results. This is literally starting Friday. So less than a week. You know, and if you put it in business days terms, it's, you know, three full business days of Friday, Monday, Tuesday, 73 offers sent out, 14 responses, and 6 counters. That being said, this process of putting together these 73 offers probably took, you know, from building the sheet to sending the actual offers out. I mean, in total, maybe 5 hours, maybe, right? So you can do this every morning for a couple of hours and start getting these conversations going. Now, of course, you know, someone counters you, right? Now what do I do? That's kind of the biggest thing is like, you know, we're new here. We're trying to build some confidence in what we're doing. We're sending these offers out. And all of a sudden we have someone that says, hey, your number does not work, but the seller the seller is countered at this number. And so now we are getting into our negotiation stage of now what do we do? And of course, you know, this is when I say, hey, this is a good time to bring me into the deal to make sure that we are creating the type of spreads that we need to create before sending it to hedge funds. And I could kind of go over all that with you as well. But, you know, I literally have a deal right here. So this is one of my deals. You can see that this was on market for 280. I saw that they had cut the asking price a couple weeks ago by $5,000, but everything here fits what I'm looking for, right? 2,000 square feet, 3.2, built in 2001. This is a very subdivision type house. You can see that this house just needs a little bit of work, you know, a paint job, maybe some new light fixtures. Outside's totally fine. Maybe paint, maybe some paint here and there. Maybe new flooring, maybe not. Not a big deal. But it gives me things to talk about and negotiate about, definitely with the seller. And here's that email, right? Emailed offer at 75% of the asking price, which was 210. So I sent this out. You'll see, hey, Jennifer, offer, blah, blah, blah. Please note this offer is valid for 72 hours from the timestamp of this email. So I sent this out on the 22nd of August. Now, of course, this just gives me an out in case something happens, right? They lower the price on market asking price. I need to build more of a spread. So I want to be able to say, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, that offer is no longer valid, but we can work this out. So again, it's just keeping the conversation going regardless. And here is her email back. The seller is coming back at 250. Will that work? Again, this is literally back and forth a little bit. I have not talked to her on the phone, none of that stuff. This is the on-market asking price at 280, Kindlewood. Jennifer, that's the agent's name. That's not here, but Jennifer Clark came back. The seller's coming back at 250. Will that work? It said, thank you, Jennifer. I do have to take into account the purchase price and smaller cosmetic turnover to modernize the property. Rents are a little lower in the area, which brings us down a little on our offer as well. Let me have my team rerun the numbers to see if there's anything we can do. I might not have an answer until Monday, Tuesday, right? So we're going back and forth on Friday. And then on Monday, this is when I jump in, right? Because this was between Lily and the seller. And then I jump in, hey, Jennifer, I believe you were working with our on-market rep, Lily. It sounds like the sellers are willing to sell at 250. I'm reaching out because I think we may be close to making something happen here. I would look to put some money into the property to modernize the cosmetics. So factoring that in, do you know if the sellers have any more room on this by chance? We would be paying cash. So as you can tell, we're just breaking things down here, trying to get close to that 210 offer that we gave in the first place. Although, you know, we're already creating some spread. And then this is some text messages back and forth. This is on my CRM, so I kind of had to like bring it over here. Agent, would there be an agent involved? No, we will not involve an agent. If I cut my commission, then he's willing to do 245, right? So let me see what I can do. And then, you know, I kind of use some anchor questions, right? So an anchor question is, how do we get them to think about what we need to know and things that can help us reduce the price as well, right? So my anchor question is, do you happen to have any info on the age condition of the big ticket items? Right. So that's putting into her mind, okay, well now, you know, he may have not factored any of that in. Now he's asking me these questions. So, you know, the roof has been in place, but I believe it's 10 years old. I'd say the condenser is 10 years. I believe furnace is similar. I think water heater is newer from seller's mom lived there, so he is not certain. So, you know, all this is just giving me more ammo for negotiation. That's literally what I'm doing here, is just saying, hey, you know, where can I talk to them and let them know that, you know, we're not quite at your price, but, you know, we're trying to get there. And so if we come back again to here, it's the 280. So right now I have this property technically, I'd say about 245. You know, we're still trying to work it. I'm probably going to try to work it down to about 230, 235. And my goal is to get an offer from a hedge fund, most likely around that 250 mark, maybe 255. That's kind of where I'm trying to pin it right now. And so, you know, that's my goal here is to kind of break them down to create some spread for myself. I think it's already at a good price for the hedge fund. Now, you know, every dollar they come down is a dollar for us, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with this deal. Now, this is just one of I believe we had 6 counters, right? And again, it probably took us about 5 hours to send out 73 offers. So in 5 hours, 73 offers, 14 responses, 6 counters. We're already working deals here. So the goal is how many counters can we get in? And if we're looking at a certain market, and I think I was just looking at a market, I think Fort Worth, literally just Fort Worth. I was searching, trying to break down our filter box, and I actually made it a little bit tighter. Well, it came out to about a little over 800 properties currently on market that have been on market for 40 days or more, right? And so usually I say, hey, start with the 60. So yeah, start with 60 days. You might, send offers to all those, and then, you could go to 50, 40. But for the exercise in Fort Worth, Texas, right now, if you use our filters, and this is just the name of Fort Worth, right? This isn't saying Arlington, which is right next to it. Dallas has nothing to do with anything, nothing to do with the little cities right outside Fort Worth that I know our funds buy in. Just literally Fort Worth in the address. More than 800 properties on market that have been on market for more than 40 days. So the goal would be, hey, if you send 800 offers, you can tell how this is a pretty good KPI here, right? For everything I do, this is pretty much in line, right? I would say, one counter for every 10 offers sent is pretty good numbers. Um, and so, if out of those, I would assume one of these could turn into a deal. That's kind of where I'm pinning right now, maybe two, just depending on if the spread is good enough for us. So, some of these counters, they come in 10,000 less than the on market asking price. Hey, no problem. I'll reach back out in 2 weeks. Some of these counters, like the one I just showed you, they're down $35,000 from their on market asking price. So for me, I know if I come in close to that, I have a good opportunity. Good opportunity to take that one down. And so there was actually, I think, two more that were in the same realm of about a $30,000 to $40,000 reduction from the on market asking price, right? And again, that's using Zillow, right? We're going on Zillow, finding those properties, using my email template, sending out those emails, and boom, here comes a counter. And a lot of times they'll just kind of start breaking their own self down, and you can then start to negotiate those deals. Um, and let's see, so that was Jennifer Clark at the 250. Um, this one, the max, so 270. So you'll see this second from the top. It says Mac Elena. He counter offer at 270. I believe that one is at 300 or 305 or something like that on market. But my goal is to get that down even more. So that's kind of where we see, this heading, right? The goal here is to, you're bird dogging, right? This is literally bird dogging at its finest. We are using free resources, right? Zillow and email. And then adding another free resource of the spreadsheet. With these three resources, Zillow, your spreadsheet, and email, you can do a lot of good stuff. Your bird dogging can come just from those three things right there. And you can really start building a list of deals, right? Because I can guarantee you, although this is only 14 responses, this is only 6 counters. Well, these people will be reached out to again in the near future, and more responses will come, and more counters will come as things sit on the table for longer, right? As they sit on market for longer. So this is kind of a good KPI to keep in mind. Now, again, we can, let's see. Boom, that's the deal. Again, this, and you'll notice, I think in the last week, I did have a paragraph here. I didn't even put that paragraph in here, right? I didn't say anything about, hey, this is just a blind offer being sent your way. I probably should have, but that's on me. So we'll do that next week. So my goal is, by next week, this is a little bit of homework for everybody. The goal is by next week, you have, 50 offers sent out, right? If you can send out 50 offers, I guarantee you will get some counters. Now, that can get a little scary. So that's why you can then come to me and we can talk about it. You'll see obviously my name on here is deals@tritonreigroup.com. And I've already had a couple people reach out with some deals, and we're currently working a couple of things here and there. But at the end of the day, if you can send out 50 offers, then we can, from now until next week, you can, get me involved, and, we can kind of go through the next few steps one-on-one. Now, if you can prove to me that you have sent out 50 offers, if you can prove that to me, I would be willing on giving you a free 30-minute consultation. Usually I charge about $150 for that. But in this instance, since we're kind of doing this together, if you can prove to me that you have done your homework and you've sent out 50 offers, we can get on a one-on-one conference call, a 30-minute one-on-one conference call, and just kind of go through everything that you got going, making sure you're kind of following these steps correctly, making sure that you have some ammo for the negotiation process, or if you want to know or get a better understanding of how to get me involved. Again, all I ask is you just kind of go through this process so you kind of can understand when we're talking one-on-one where I'm coming from. And eventually, you get a couple of these going and you can start to scale this pretty easily. I do use other softwares called like PropStream. I know people know PropStream, PropWire, Privy. Those are all softwares that a lot of people in Sub 2 use. So in the near future, we will go over how to use PropStream to kind of make this go a little quicker. But you still got to know how to do this process because it still helps to use Zillow when we're doing this. Now, I really want to open up, for some Q&A here. Let's see. Sir Kevin. Where's my man, Kevin? I think I lost something here. What's the chat box at? Oh. All right. So I think we had some questions already in the chat. So I'm gonna answer those as we kind of take a break from this little slideshow. So Casey, you had mentioned involving you once you got a counter offer. Does that mean we would potentially be working similar to your VA and you would take over the negotiation on our behalf once we reach a counter? So I think that's different for everyone, right? It just depends on how comfortable you are with negotiating the deal. So there's different ways to do it. It's, hey, I want you to go for it, or hey, just let me know how I should negotiate these next couple of steps, right? So it's really up to you. If you want to kind of obviously be involved in the conversation, you can definitely be involved in the conversation. If you're just saying, hey, just go ahead and handle it, no problem. Usually what I will do is if it's passed off to me, I will make the phone call. I will have the negotiation with the agent, and then I will download that phone call and send it to you. And so, that does a couple of things, right? That tells you exactly what we talked about, where we're at on the deal. And it also gives you an idea of how I kind of funnel the conversation depending on, maybe the emails that are going back and forth, right? So every conversation is going to be a little bit different.
Would you
And then
also recommend doing this with our own LLC versus saying Triton REI Group?
Yes, yeah. So you'll see. I think if you were here, and hopefully everyone heard that, right? So Casey asked, when you guys are sending out these offers, you should definitely use either your name or your LLC's name, right? You don't really want to use my name, but I will be, in essence, your partner moving forward, and then that's when I can introduce myself if I need to, my company if I need to. But yeah, so in essence, when you're sending these offers, make sure you're sending them from your company or from yourself. Hopefully that helps there. Yeah, no problem. Let's see, would you recommend calling agent after sending email? Edgar, So this is where it comes down to time, right? Um, Typically what I do is, I will send out a bunch of offers. I just don't have time to talk to the people that have not responded to me, right? So usually if someone responds to me, say it's a counter or they have certain questions, and I think it's worth my time to getting on the phone and talking to them, then of course I will get on the phone. Or if we if we kind of gone back and forth on some emails or text messages, and I'm at a point to where I'm close, but I need to just, seal up the deal and get that contract, then I'm definitely getting on the phone to do that. But there's definitely a time and place for when you should be getting on the phone. But you just want to make sure you're also not wasting too much time by calling a bunch of people that aren't even answering your email, right? Because in essence, we're going to send them another email in a couple of weeks anyways, right? So if you look back at the spreadsheet, there it is, you'll see that I literally have dates. So this will say, this probably lands around September 5th or 6th or something like that. So for people that have not responded to me, we will be sending them another offer email around September 5th or 6th. For the people that have responded to me, but maybe they said no, or maybe they countered, if they countered, I'm probably working with them already. But if they just straight up said no, well, then I'm still going to send them another offer because I don't care until they tell me to not do that. But that's kind of my take on calling. It's you kind of want to make sure that you have enough time in the day to talk to the true potential. All right, Jorge. Girl, are you sending out LOIs first and then calling the agent if they respond? So I think that kind of takes us back, right? If they give me a great counter that's really close to my offer price, then I'm probably calling them. Yeah, because at that point I should probably lock it up, right? So as an example, just as a plain example, I have a property for $300,000, right? And 75% of that would be the 225 or something like that, right? Obviously. Um, so all of a sudden they send me a counter close to my offer price, 230, 235. I'm getting on the phone because I want to lock that up because I know I can work with that at that point. Um, Anything other than that, if I'm just kind of answering questions or what have you, maybe not. But if I see true potential right away, then yes, I'm getting on the phone. Hopefully that answers that. Let's see, Karen Stinchfield. So most of my offers are almost 100 under asking price. That is taking 75% of listing price. Does that sound right? So that depends on the price point, obviously, right? So if you have a property on market for $400,000, 75% of that would be an offer at $300,000. So in that instance, that's $100,000 discount. Obviously, that's really at the top of the buy box we want to be messing with, right? That's really at the top. As my last example, at 300,000, let me just make sure I'm not being dumb. Nice. Yeah. So at $300,000, my offer would go out at $225,000. Right. So keep that in mind. It is 75%. And again, 225, most people are going to say no. Some people are going to laugh at you. I don't care. I know that's going to happen, so it doesn't hurt me at all. All I care about is, hey, this person sent me a counter that's actually a pretty good counter. I think there's opportunity at that point. So that's who I'm going after. It's a numbers game.
So you just go ahead and send those offers out at 75% and then wait for them to counter? Is that
Yep.
kind of what you do? Okay. I just wanted to have a baseline for like where I start with all my offers.
Definitely. And so on my YouTube, and I'll have Kevin send out my YouTube, he just put up the week 1 training. And on that week 1 training, you will see how I break down my offers, right? So it literally is 75% of the on market asking price every time. Um, is box. All right. How do we prove to you we have sent 50 offers? Great question. So obviously we have the spreadsheet here. What typically I would do is I would say, hey, send me a spreadsheet of the 50 properties and, the 50 properties that you sent offers on. And then I will say, I will pick out some random ones and say, hey, forward me the email. Forward me the email that shows that you actually sent that offer. Easy as that. And that they will be random, obviously, right? Because I don't want you to send me the 3 that you did send. And then Karen's, so you use your own money for the 1,000 for EMD or to open escrow. What is your time frame? That is typically to now get a hedge fund company to buy your contract. All right, great. So I do use my own money. That being said, the hedge fund does put down more than that, right? Typically, they're putting down 3,000 to 5,000, but they don't put that down until they know they're buying the deal. So they won't put it down until after the inspection, right? So you do a lot of the times you might have to put your own $1,000 up. Although my contracts have terms in there that kind of protect me, so you got to know what terms to put in there. That's something that I did kind of go over in the training last week, but something that if you're getting to that point, I would say, hey, now bring me in because I can kind of provide that. Now, typically, how do I get a hedge fund company to buy the contract? So usually what happens is, right, you say you sign a contract today. Typically, I would say, hey, give me 4-5 days to put EMD down, and that's business days, right? So in those 4 to 5 days, you should have some good offers from your hedge fund by then. And if that hedge fund's offer does come in and it does work, then we know that we're okay with putting $1,000 down. And then as soon as we put that $1,000 down, we know that we have an inspection period. And so we have inspection clauses, right? We're going to say, hey, if the rehab becomes too much and we didn't expect this, then, we can get out of this contract. It's typically coming from the hedge fund, right? Because we're going to send the hedge fund's inspector, and they're going to give us a report on what they found, and they're going to say, hey, we thought it was going to maybe be 40,000 rehab, but it came back at 90,000 because the fence has fallen over and I didn't have pictures of that, or the roof and the HVAC are bad and we didn't know that, or the foundation has cracks in it and we don't buy homes with foundation cracks. Right. So those are all kind of ways that we are able to get our money back is through inspection terms, right? We just want to make sure that, and it's not our fault that we go to the property and there's a bad foundation. We can only see what we can see in pictures. So, we do want to protect, of course, our EMD. So you got to know how to do that correctly. Definitely. Am I opening escrow with my LLC? Yeah. So every property that I purchase, I do purchase with my LLC. Either if I'm keeping it for myself or if I am wholesaling it. What are hedge funds buying at? 80 to 85% ARV. Yeah. So I'm assuming that I would say yes. I think that's what you're looking for, right? So yes, that's correct. Of course, the rental yield in the neighborhood does come into play here, right? So, and I think I gave an example of it in the first training, or it might have been in the very, very first training, where I had a property that I sent, or that it was on market for 180,000, if I remember right, and a hedge fund bought it for 170 or something like that. And so that one was probably at more like 90% ARV. So it really depends on how strong the rental market is. They do take that into play, right? So if it's a $500,000 house and the rent in the neighborhood is $2,000, well, no one's making money on that. So that's just not going to be a good offer. That's not going to be a good deal for them, right? But that's why we like to stick within that, 150 to 350 price point, right? If we can find a good rental market within that first time home buyer rental kind of price range, we can get some good, some good rents out of those properties, or some good close to 1% is what they call it. And then you'll see Jorge, anyone using LOI blast or to blast email. So obviously that is a resource that a lot of people do use. I do not use it. I just use Gmail. So either works. Edgar Arlano, I've been trying to do that, but I'm thinking it's going to their spam. So what I would say is definitely test your emails, right? Send it to yourself a couple of times, send it to a friend, make sure that if it is going to spam, they can say this is not spam or what have you. I started a brand new email address because I wanted to, again, start this from fresh. And I don't think it's going to spam really, or if it is, people are still finding it. At this point, I don't think people get too much spam anymore, but they do check spam. If you think it is going into their spam and you think there's a good opportunity, the phone number for the agent is usually there, so you can always shoot them a text message, right? And so sometimes I will say, hey, agent, whatever your name is, just want to let you know I sent over an offer to your email for this property you have listed. There's a possibility it could be in your spam, right? So it's very easy. Just send a text message like that, and then they'll say, hey, no, I did get it, I just didn't respond, or oh shoot, it's in my spam, right? So that's definitely something that you want to kind of poke around and play with a little bit. All right, Yoseo. So let me get this straight. We just sending offers to agents 75% of the asking price, and if they answer our email or text, we call them and negotiate, or at that point call you. So good question. I would say the best, it's really, it's hard for me not to say don't call me, right? Because it all depends on the counter, and it all depends on the property. It's very, it's like where does the property sit? What was the on market asking price? Was it super high ball? Was the on market price actually lower than it should have been? And then is there counter? Where is their counter at? Right. So all those things come into play. So I would say at least for the first one or couple, get me involved so I can kind of show you what I do at that point. I think that's probably the best thing to say. Now, it's kind of up in the air. If you want to negotiate, great. But then now you're kind of pinning yourself down to whatever you negotiate to as well. So, I think sometimes it does help just to get me involved, and hopefully you can learn, and maybe we do more deals. Maybe you learn enough from me and you're good to go. All right. Are these fractionally owned hedge funds? That's interesting question. So are you asking like from the website fractional? Or what do you mean by fractionally owned? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that.
Hi, James. This is Monica. That was my question. I'm just curious, is it like BlackRock that are these hedge funds, or sometimes they have fractionally owned hedge funds where you have a regular, person that is buying into hedge funds,
Sure.
and then they benefit from the income from that? Or I know it doesn't really matter. I'm just curious if you know what type of hedge funds you're dealing with. Is it big, massive companies that then own potential entire neighborhoods? Or are these just one-off houses in a particular, like Fort Worth, Texas, that you're doing this for?
So let me answer that first part because I understand the first part. I'm not sure if I'm catching the understanding for the second part, but
Mhm.
yeah, so it is hedge funds like BlackRock. That's definitely I think they go they buy in multiple neighborhoods across the United States. So that is a hedge fund that we do sell to, definitely. Now you do also have your other REITs that are out there, right?
Right.
You also have your kind of middle of the way funds, and that not so much hedge funds, but just your real estate funds, right?
Mhm.
And so maybe this might be something a little more you're talking about, where you have your general partners pool capital together, And then you have obviously your other partners that are bringing capital as well, or just making kind of money off the rental splits and things of that sort. So we do work with both levels, right?
Okay.
We work with companies that have specific roles as well, right? So we work with a few companies that buy a bunch of homes, they renovate the home, they put a renter with a guaranteed 2 or 3 year lease in the home, and then they sell that as a package to your mom and pop out of state investor, right? So a lot of people in California will buy rental packages from those type of companies.
Okay. Thank you for
Um,
clarifying.
Of course, of course. All right, Joshua Jones, I might have missed this, but do you have a site or link?
Hey, Monica, I was curious to see um why you asked that question, and not in any weird way, but I have can you lower your volume? No, no, no. On the computer. Yeah. The reason why I ask, I think was it Karen or was it Monica?
Monica, yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I ask is because some people are hesitant. They're like, I don't want to sell a deal to hedge fund because now you take deals away from these first time home buyers. And I totally understand the perspective of the people that say, it's like you sell to hedge fund, that means one less house for the people that really want to buy their first, it's the first time home buyers. And I just wanna is that the reason why you kind of asked that question,
Well,
Monica?
I just want to understand the whole
Mm.
picture because like I don't want to be living in a neighborhood where an entire hedge fund company owns 50% of the neighborhood. I think
Yeah.
that's a little unusual. Maybe it's been going on for a long time and I'm just not familiar with that, but it's just surprising to me because then what happens is this just becomes about making money. It's not
Right.
really thinking past being young and stacking money, and then you get married and have a family and you live in a beautiful neighborhood that's owned by a hedge fund company. It's just interesting to me. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I just kind of want to ask that question just because I'm a firm believer. It's like, I personally think hedge funds should really not be playing at the $200,000 range in my personal opinion. But I just wanted to kind of, bring it up that, maybe James, you and I could, shed some light on this. And this is totally
Yeah.
apart from, like, this kind of Zoom that we're doing, but this idea of like you taking care of yourself first, I think, is also something that also has to happen simultaneously while not taking, affordable housing away from, the first time retail buyer. So that's something that always a topic that I've been really interested in lately, is because like, okay, like, do I want to make money or do I want to make the house more affordable, and not sell to hedge fund? But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure, everybody kind of makes their own final own decisions, and
Right.
that there's nothing wrong with either or. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I
Uh,
respect that. I respect that. I'm a little bit older, and so I've been in the financial industry. So I look at it from a different perspective, a different phase of my life. So it's just interesting. I know real estate's always going to be, a great investment for anyone. So I've just never heard of this. But I mean, I think it's great. I just have mixed feelings, that's all.
yeah, yeah,
And I could add on to that as well. Yeah. All right. So this is kind of their process, right? So let me explain kind of some things that they do, right? So they do look for specific assets, which then when you're looking for a specific asset, that means usually those assets are pretty close to each other, right? So in this instance, right, they really won't buy, say, anything built before 1970. They need a certain price point as well, and they need a certain rental as well. So what we see hedge funds doing is usually holding on to properties anywhere from 7 to about 12 years, right? And then they kind of let that property go and they move on to, say, a different area, different neighborhood, different market. Of course, a lot of this depends on the rules and laws in those specific markets. Now, what we see with a lot of funds is they are coming in and they are updating these homes as well, right? So they're able to keep neighborhoods looking nice. One thing that we also have to understand is here in the States, we are very, 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 very far behind on new builds and rentals, right? So both of those things, we have a shortage of both of them, right? So now we see like, well, developers need to be able to build a bunch of properties. And now we're talking about the finance markets, right? Because right now it's pretty tough to do that just because of where interest rates are. Um, so as we see kind of these funds moving into these neighborhoods, you'll actually see a lot of funds will then go and sell a bunch of properties and then move on to their next set of properties, right? To then go ahead and rent it or hold on to for however long. Again, usually 7 to 12 years is kind of their prime marker. And then they leave these properties in pretty good condition, right? So people then, your first time home buyer can then come back into that property and actually buy that property from a hedge fund. You'll see, I think a lot of that happened with I think Zillow, Zillow used to buy a bunch of properties and sometimes they overbuy and sometimes they leverage themselves. So then they have to go and dump a bunch of properties on market. And so now you have these people that are moving into these homes that, the hedge fund put 30, 40,000 into it. But they can't sell it for what they bought it and what they have in it for. So then we see a bunch of these kind of good looking houses come back on market at discounts, right? The one problem we would see is if that happened across the board. You're talking about if all these funds, and say just like the big ones, the biggest ones in the world, if all those big funds said, hey, we can't buy anymore, or hey, we have to sell everything we have. I mean, the bottom of the real estate market would just fall out, right? People would lose everything, right? So, a lot of people work their whole life to buy a property. A lot of people take out debt on their property to do other things with. You would have a massive upside down real estate market if all of a sudden they just yank themselves out. And so, in essence, they kind of prop it up. They prop it up for everyone. And now it's a little scary though, because you do see that there's times where they're very aggressive in buying. And so you'll see like a couple of these pop up in your neighborhood. But at the same time, there's such a shortage that people that don't want to buy but need somewhere to live for a couple of years, they have a tough time getting property as well, getting rentals as well. So now we see these funds that are actually building to rent single family homes. So now you have these neighborhoods that are truly built to rent. And then you also have them picking up homes in neighborhoods to rent out. And now you see developers, right? That helps developers out, right? Because that means inventory is low on that side. Now developers can go build new stuff for new homeowners. And now we look at a market like Phoenix, or we look at a market like Austin, which people made some money in those markets by buying and holding on to having low interest rates and reselling at a much different market that's today than it was before COVID. Those markets make it possible so that people can kind of cash in a property and have a little bit of money to do what they have to do. But the other nice thing is, developers follow these guys too. So in a market like Phoenix, any city that you go in Phoenix, you'll see new homes, new apartment complexes, new everything. The crazy thing, when I first moved to Scottsdale, it was in 2017. In 2017, I was living close to Old Town for a 1-bedroom apartment. I was paying, I believe it was about $1,900 a month at that time. Beautiful apartment though, very nice 1-bedroom apartment. My cousin just moved into the same apartment complex and it's 2025. He's paying $300 less than I am to live in that apartment complex, right? So what that tells me is Phoenix, Arizona did the correct thing. They built out cities, right? They built out new multifamily properties. They built out new subdivisions. Obviously, if you go into Mesa, Gilbert, Queen Creek, Peoria, Sun City, or I think that's what it's called. You even go into North Phoenix and North Scottsdale and all these areas. The way to bring down housing cost is literally to build more housing, right? Because now the demand, right? The demand is not as strong and not as heavy for these places. So now you have a much better equal market throughout the area. Same thing happened in Austin, Texas, right? People were like, "Oh my gosh, this place is booming. There's nowhere to go. It's doubled, tripled after COVID, and this market is crazy." Well, now you hear of the market is leveling off and actually going down now. And so you see in an area like Austin, they have put up a bunch of brand new multifamily properties, a bunch of, built out a bunch of new subdivisions and things of that sort. That's a true way to lower housing costs. And that's for purchasing as well as for renting. Now, there's never going to be a shortage of first-time home buyers, and there's never going to be a shortage of rentals for those type of people as well. Um, but it does become scary because it's like, okay, well now, what's becoming unaffordable for people? Once a market in that gets unaffordable, well, then that's why developers come in and develop new things. That's how it should work, right? And it gives more opportunity for everyone. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. In some areas, it's a little scary, right? Because you do see a lot of hedge funds buying a lot of properties in a certain neighborhood. On the other side, you see that people do have to be able to rent properties. People do have to be able to buy properties, and so it's kind of like a push and pull kind of situation, right? But again, we'd probably be in a pretty bad situation if all of a sudden they all just said, "Hey, we're done. No more for us. We're going to sell everything we have," because a lot of people would probably, unfortunately, lose a lot of money that are depending on their equity in their homes and things of that sort. Um, so at least in this instance, we can help the seller out, right? Because maybe the seller's property is sitting on market. Like again, we're going for homes, that are on market 40, 50, 60 days plus. So another thing is we're hoping those sellers sell, right? For whatever reason, your first time home buyer is not buying that specific house. And so now we're doing a service. We're not agents, so we're just saying, "Hey, this is what we can do, and hey, this is my fee, and I feel comfortable with my fee." And we're getting this done, so now the agent's getting paid, the title company is getting paid, the inspectors are getting paid, the seller is walking away, they're getting their money, they're getting paid out of whatever situation they need to get out of. So just one transaction helps out multiple families, right? You also have the contractors that probably need to come in and do some work on the properties as well. So, we're not only are we just helping a seller out, but you end up helping out this whole line of people and their families as we get this done. And then the hope is, hey, just keep on building more properties so that if you do want to buy, you can. If you do need to rent, you can. And so that's kind of like the push and pull aspect of this kind of thing. Unfortunately, they're not able to sell to anyone else, so we'll see if we can help them out in this way. So you see a lot of the sub two. You have some huge sub two buyers, that are kind of gobbling up a ton of these properties. But in essence, you are helping out a lot of people at the same time. So it's one of those kind of push and pull things. It's we go to the grocery store because some middleman sold them a bunch of food and we need that food. Well, it's helping us. We don't really care at the end of the day if all that money goes to Kellogg or goes to, Coca-Cola because we bought a candy bar. We just want to be happy with our purchases. So let's see if we have any more, but always a good question. Always a good question. About that as well. I look at hedge funds like AI, it's here, and like they're not. And a lot of people do have their 401s wrapped up with these companies as well. So eventually, it's a weird thing because you do want them to do well, right? You want them to overpay in essence because that means that the seller gets more money. That means you get more money. And they're going to put money into the property. So they're going to make it nice. They're going to make sure that, for everyone else that owns in the neighborhood, that the value of their homes stay up and stay nice because they do have a standard to make sure that they're putting good assets out there. They have, their brand name and all that stuff as well. So it kind of helps everything in that sense. All All right, so Karen, I think we have another question from you. Should we only be looking at properties in our own state, or does it matter since the hedge fund is going to inspect it anyways? Yeah, no, you do not need to be in your own state. Actually, I've only, well, for the most part, until I decided to move, but I had only virtually wholesaled my whole career. For the first 3 or 4 years, everything was virtual. And then I wanted to move to Florida, and a couple of markets in Florida were my main markets. So I ended up moving to Orlando for a little bit, and then I wasn't so much virtual, but now I'm fully virtual again. So I think it's no problem. It just comes down to numbers. The hedge fund will be the one inspecting it, so you don't have to worry about boots on the ground. And anything else, usually the agent can take care of, right? Answer any questions you have, take any pictures that you might need that is currently not there on the listing. So we kind of use the agents, or maybe if there's tenants in the home, or the inspectors to pretty much handle everything we need for boots on the ground. Jed, is it next week when you will go over using paid data sources like Privy or PropStream? That is a big maybe, because I think we're going to try to work that one in, but I was trying to keep this short, and I'm already going over what I want. I wanted to keep it at 45 minutes. We're already an hour in, so I don't think next week will be that specific training. I think that training will probably be in 2 or 3 weeks from now. But I believe I will have some stuff up on YouTube that will help with that. So and also if you do not have PropStream, I will be sending sending a link to everyone on the email chain. You'll have like a link from me, so everyone can go get a free week or what have you with it. Joshua Jones, I might have missed this, but do you have a site or link where we can send the buy box and all these, where we can see the buy box? I think I'm still sharing my screen. Maybe not. No. So here, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Just take a picture of this. Can you see it now? Right. So this is a very simple, just 1970s and newer, 3.2 minimum, 1250 minimum. I would say we max out at about 3,000 square feet. That encompasses a good portion of hedge funds, right? So it's not just one, that's multiple that I've kind of taken the minimums of everything and put them together. Let's see, I might have missed this. Okay, so we could. Oh. Hey, Kevin. What was it on before?
It was on this.
Before that?
It was always on this.
I thought it was on this.
No.
All right.
What do you want us to share this?
Let's talk about video.
Huh?
Like myself.
Oh.
Sorry, y'all. Technical difficulties because I suck at this stuff.
There you go.
All right. So thanks, Kevin. Kevin's my man. So 75 offers a week is your base for offers sent, or are there weeks where you send more offers than that? Yeah, I mean, it's just comes down to time for me. I do run a couple of things, right? I have a full rental portfolio that I pretty much manage myself. I have, this content stuff that I work on with Kevin on, and then I also have a wholesale business that I head. So, it really depends on kind of what we're focusing on, but I do employ a VA that helps me a lot. And she's the one that will actually send these offers out for me. What do you think of Deal Machine? So, with all these type of things, Deal Machine and all the other ones like it, you kind of just end up using, one that just makes sense for you, right? Whatever one you learn the quickest is usually what I go with. So if I can understand a software the most, and Deal Machines is, nothing out, I should say, nothing out there is perfect, 100%. And you can kind of, everything has its own like good thing about it. And so yeah, it's fine. I mean, I don't really use it, but I have, and again, it's just not something that I use on the regular basis, or use, I should say. But I know a lot of people do like it and use it. And then Joshua Jones, thanks. What states? I know I have it in here. So I stick to Texas, Arizona, Georgia, Tennessee. I just really like those states because those metro areas are huge. Just a ton of properties, a ton of options to go after. But there's just the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Ohio. A couple of things there. Kansas City, Indianapolis. So a few of those for sure are good markets. Casey, if we get a contract, how quickly would we be looking at cash in our pocket, the hedge fund closing? So if you set it up correctly and it's in a perfect spot, right? So it's vacant. We don't have to wait or at least we know it'll be vacant at closing as soon as we need it to be vacant. You can really get something done within 20 days. So in 20 days would be, you have a contract, you have an offer price from a hedge fund that probably took 2 or 3 days to get an offer price from the hedge fund. But from that point moving forward, getting it inspected and closing on it, if you do everything correctly there, you can say 20 days. But usually I just say when I'm sending these offers out, I just put 30 days on it. Just put the closing date as 30 days out. And then, that's when if they come back and you start talking, hey, does 30 days work? Does the seller need more time to get out? No problem. Or is there tenants in the house? You still have to give them a 30-day notice, right? So everything can change very, very quickly. But usually when I'm sending the offer out, the close of escrow is 30 days from 30 days, and it has to land on a business day, right? So sometime between Monday through Friday, 30 days out. Would you recommend getting a VA if we have a 9 to 5? I did not have a VA for a long time. Because what will end up happening is they'll do this very quickly and then they'll just be sitting there. And usually when you hire a VA, you need 40 hours worth of work for them to make it really useful, right? Because you want them working in your business all day, every day. You don't want them working half days and working for someone else, and right, because that's how things just get dropped. You want them to work for you full time, 40 hours a week. So like I said, 50 offers takes about 3 to 4 hours to send out, if that, not even really that, because that was including setting everything up. So I would say it's one thing where it's like you get off work. I mean, agents work 24/7, right? So you can send offers from 6 to 8 p.m. every day, or 6 to 7 p.m., 1 hour a day, right? And get a lot of things done. So that's kind of my point on it. Now, when you start getting, when you're doing so many things, organization then is becoming an issue. And, you need people to answer emails for you, or you need people to set things up for you and send email. Then it's like, okay, now VA makes sense. But until you kind of get to that level of man, I have so much stuff going on, I can't even be organized anymore. Okay, well, now it's time to like understand how I can import a VA into my business. Do they buy duplexes? They do not buy duplexes. Detached single family homes, no townhouses, no quads, triplexes, duplexes, condos, apartment homes. They will buy patio homes, or they will buy patio and what are they called? Like zero lot line homes, right? They're detached from the next door, but it's like by 2 feet kind of thing. I think they call those zero lot line homes. All right. Well, first of all, can we if you found some value from today, obviously from my quick presentation, my slides, and from the conversations we're having, can you put a 1 in the chat if you did find some good nuggets from this conversation? I just want to make sure that we're on the right path here, kind of helping everyone kind of start, right? So we're building a foundation. we're learning how to find homes, and we're learning how to price these homes to then send to hedge funds, right? In the future, I mean, now you can go out to off-market properties knowing like about how much people will pay and all that good stuff. But for right now, the quickest way to a deal is knowing that a deal is currently for sale. So that's why we are starting with on-market properties. We know they want to sell. And we know if we can get to a number that works for everyone, we make money. That's what it comes down to. So I think everyone should have my email address. It's again, it's right here in my name, deals@Triton REI Group. So you know, if we want to hop on a one-to-one, you can do that homework, right? We want to at least send 50 offers out before hopping on a one-to-one call. Again, I'll do this one for free, not a problem. We'll do a 30-minute thing. We could cover a lot of good stuff that way. And then also, if you have a deal and you want me to kind of evaluate or jump in at any point, no problem. I think there's probably a couple people in this Zoom currently that I have already jumped in deals with, and that we are working on deals with. We actually did have a good one with Moshi, but I think he's gone. We actually have a couple with him already. So yeah, Edgar, you said, so the homework, what I had kind of said previously was, I am willing to get on a one-on-one video call, anytime this week, right? Any really time this week or next week, even before next Wednesday. But the way that you can get me on a one-on-one call, again, because I typically charge about $150 for this consulting fee, but I will waive that if you can prove to me that you've sent out 50 offers. And again, the way that I prove that is by just, you're going to have your spreadsheet with all 50 addresses, and I'm going to pick out a couple of those, and you're going to show me the actual email. You're going to forward me the email that you sent on the date that you said you sent it. So I want the addresses, the date you sent the offer, the on-market purchase price, and the target purchase price. The target purchase price is the 75% of the on-market price, right? So is the spreadsheet going to be sent to our email? I think so. I
can put all of your clothes in the dryer because it was too full.
Oh,
So it's just
that's not good.
Hi, how are you?
I'm about to get in the shower.
Okay.
Oh, hey,
I'm just
Liza,
awesome.
do you want to mute your camera or your computer there? No problem, no problem. Get that laundry done though. So yeah, so the homework is send 50 offers out. Once you have sent 50 offers out, we'll wait maybe like a day extra to see, the emails that are coming back in, right? And so some people are going to say, hell no. Some people are going to say, hey, no, but here's a counter. Never know. And someone might say, you know what? Yes, we need to get this thing sold yesterday. So, once we kind of get some responses, then you can reach out to me, say, hey, I've sent my 50 offers out. I'm getting some action here. Can we meet on a one-on-one? And then, we can go from there, the spreadsheet where we get that at. So I will send the spreadsheet out. So, obviously everyone's on this call. I have your email address. I will send literally kind of what I showed you here. It'll be the same setup. And everyone will get that. So that's not a problem. Joshua Jones, 75% of listing price or ARV. It's going to be 75% of listing price. Right? And again, that's just to get these things going out. We don't want to have to spend hours and hours on comping, getting ARVs. We know if we get it at about 75%, and you got to be a little smart about this, right? If the Zestimate is $300,000 and they're asking $1 million for the house, we're probably not going to do 75% of that because it just does not make sense. But in most cases, 75% will do it, just as long as you're following the buy box. And we can kind of go from there. And so hopefully by next week, we can kind of tell some people about some of these deals that we're working with each other. Hopefully I can kind of show, the next steps, some of these deals that I'm working as well. And we can kind of keep at it. And so we'll just keep working down the line together on this and see what happens. And hopefully, some people are getting some good action here. And again, this is about learning how to get properties together, get offers together, and eventually how to negotiate as well. So, you know, everything will kind of be covered as we go week by week, as we go negotiation by negotiation. Hopefully you guys kind of build that confidence to just go ahead and get this thing going for you. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some deals coming in the doors for everyone. So, you know, I think I've probably taken enough of everyone's time. You know, hopefully everyone got you know, a couple more nuggets here today, and we hope that we can kind of get some people cracking in this wholesale game. So we'll be sending that spreadsheet out probably sometime later today, and we can go from there. So again, thanks everyone for showing up. I really appreciate it. You know, hopefully I didn't talk anyone's ears off here. But looking forward to working with everyone here. Hopefully we can get some deals going with everyone and kind of go from there. So everyone, hope to see you next Wednesday again. Feel free to email me beforehand. We can hop on that Zoom call and kind of go from there. So yeah, you know, next week in this series, next week will be the last one, right? Because that's kind of the training of this first step, right? So next week will be the last training of this first step, and then we will kind of go into some other stuff of the next part of dealing with hedge funds and contract work and how to scale and things of that sort. So just trying to open up my book as much as possible. And if you work with me, great. If you kind of want to do your thing, no problem. So I'm here to help. All right. So I'm saying goodbye, everybody. We'll see y'all later. See y'all next time.
Appreciate you, champ. Appreciate you, brother.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Thanks for coming.